before I turn it on, it won't have anything there. But once I turn it on, you'll be able to see a live presentation at that point. So I just turned it on. So if you have, if you wanted to get to that link, and again, the link is at the top of the room under the place where it says View Cam on the upper left side. You can click on it, or you can copy and paste it into your browser, and you can get to the YouTube side, the live presentation of today's lesson. Today, we're going to be looking at Daniel chapter 11. Daniel chapter 11 is a very detailed account of the rise of the little horn of Daniel 8. So we'll be referencing Daniel 8 and Daniel 7 quite a bit, as the little horn is referenced in Daniel 11 in terms of, except in Daniel 11, it's called the King of the North. And so we will discuss why we say the little horn is the King of the North in Daniel chapter 11, and we'll look at that. And then, of course, at the end of Daniel chapter 11 shows the religious power, influence, and worldwide power of the little horn come into prominence as we get ready for Daniel chapter 12, which is the end. So we'll see that today, the rise of the little horn in Daniel chapter 11. There's a lot of minutia involved, as there's a powers vying for earthly entities vying for power on planet Earth, as it always is. And we'll see that in Daniel 11. And also, as you go through Daniel 11, you'll see some highlighted points of historical events that the Bible references in other parts, which again we'll be cross-referencing as we go through Daniel 11. So we'll be in Daniel 11, and we'll be going into Daniel 7, Daniel 8, and of course we'll be going into the book of Revelation. We'll probably touch base in the Gospels and other places as the Spirit leads us. But in studying Daniel 11, we will need all of these other scriptures as well to understand what's going on there. But before we do that, I'd like to ask for prayer this morning for the Spirit of the Most High Yah, our Father Yahweh in heaven, that His Spirit would come and take over our Bible study on this, the Holy Shabbat, and that through the name of the Mashiach Yahweh Shai, His Son, we would be blessed with His Spirit of truth and guided in righteousness, because the goal of all of us as Israelites is to keep the commandments, statutes, and judgments of the Most High Yah in His Spirit. And so we ask, as we go through His Word, that He would guide and direct our paths this morning. Praise the Most High for the agreement among the brethren. So let us get ready to pray. As we pray together, that the Most High will guide us and direct our paths and lead us in the way that we should go as we go into His Word this morning. Most High Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai Mashiach, we come bowing with bended knee before you today, and heads bowed, as we are giving you the honor, the praise, and the glory due your name. We don't do justice to the honor, praise, and glory that you deserve, but we pray this morning humbly, asking that you would please, in the blood of the Messiah, Yahweh Shai, that you would forgive us of our sin, but our iniquity on this, the holy Sabbath day, the Shabbat where Yahweh Shai, the Messiah, healed so many people. We ask that you please bring us healing today, that your Spirit would come upon us, that the blood of the Messiah be sufficient to cleanse us from all our sin, all our transgressions of your covenant, and bring us spiritual and physical healing this morning. We pray for your Spirit to take possession of us and of this room and of this Bible study and of all the inhabitants, that your name would be uplifted and honored and glorified as we show our love toward you in obedience to your commandments, statutes, and judgments. Guide us into your word. Direct our paths. Let us not veer off into our own way, but let us follow your truth strictly according to your divine Spirit. In the name of the Most High, Yahweh Shai, Mashiach, your Son, we pray. Amen. Okay, so thank you, Sister Josie, for handling those red dots. I'm going to, again, who did not, if anyone wants to go to YouTube and did not or cannot see the link, yeah, please let me know. Let me put the links up. I'm going to go off the mic for a second so I can put these links up there. Thank you. Thank you, Sister Josie. So I put Sister Josie was kind enough to put the links to Hangouts, and I just put the links up to the for the YouTube. So either way, you could go into Hangouts or you can go into YouTube. What we are finding from people reporting to us that the sound quality is better on that side than it is in Pal Talk oftentimes. So that is why we have that there. Before we get started on the Shabbat, generally what we like to do in this room is we like to read certain passages of Scripture that show us from Genesis to Revelation that we should be obedient to the Sabbath, and it shows us that from the Scriptures. And so we do it because there are many people that are keeping Sunday and in error, we find from the Scriptures, and some of them are being taught that the New Testament doesn't teach the Sabbath, and some of them are being taught that the Sabbath didn't exist before the Ten Commandments. And so we like to read Scripture from Genesis to Revelation, different Scriptures that show the Sabbath and why we are here this morning. Okay, thank you, Sister Josie. Yeah, and in the top of the room is under the top left-hand side of the room where it says View Cam. Right before that, there's a little link there. That's the YouTube link if you wanted to go there. Sister Josie is putting up the Hangouts link if you wanted to go there. So you have both. And thank you for that, Sister Josie. Now you're spoiling me because I'm putting you on the hook. So if somebody comes in and they want the Hangouts link, if you could just keep putting it up, I'd appreciate that. And I already have the YouTube link at the top of the room, so it's up there if anyone wants either side. Praise the Most High. Okay, so let's look at the morning scriptures before we get started that tell us the importance and eternal settling of the Sabbath, especially for the children of Israel, the people who are the Most High's called out assembly. Let's start in Genesis chapter 2. Genesis chapter 2, from verses 1 to 3. Genesis, otherwise known as Bereshith in the beginning, Genesis chapter 2, verses 1, 2, and 3. And the scripture reads, "Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, the Most High ended his work which he had made. And he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And the Most High blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which the Most High created and made." Genesis chapter 2, Bereshith, verses 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3, Genesis chapter 2. Now we turn to Exodus, which is called These Are the Names, or Alasham. Some say Shamoth, but it means these are the names. That's the real name of the book of Exodus. But Exodus chapter 19, verses 3 through 6. Exodus chapter 19, verses 3 through 6. Shamim. And the scripture says, "And Moses went up unto the Most High, and Yahweh called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people. For all the earth is mine, and ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests, and an holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel." That was Exodus chapter 19, verses 3 through 6 at Alasham. And now we turn to the same book, chapter 20, and we turn to the covenant itself. And in the middle of the covenant, the fourth commandment. And that would be Exodus chapter 20, verses 8 through 11. Exodus chapter 20, verses 8 through 11. "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Shabbat of Yahweh the Most High. Thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days Yahweh made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. It's Exodus chapter 20, verses 8 through 11. We stay in the book of Exodus, Alasham, and we turn to Exodus chapter 31. Exodus chapter 31, from verses 12 to 18. Exodus chapter 31, from verses 12 to 18. And the Torah reads, And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep, sign between me and you throughout your generations, that ye may know that I am Yahweh that doth sanctify you. Ye shall keep the Sabbath therefore, for it is holy unto you. Every one that defileth it shall surely be put to death. Doth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. 6 days may work be done, but in the seventh is the Sabbath of rest, holy to Yahweh. Whosoever doth any work in the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death. Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations for a perpetual covenant. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days Yahweh made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. And he gave unto Moses, when he had made an end of communing with him upon Mount Sinai, 2 tables of testimony, tables of stone, written with the finger of the Most High. That is Exodus chapter 31, verses 12 through 18. Now we turn to the prophet Isaiah, otherwise known as Yeshaya. Isaiah chapter 58, verses 12 through 14. Isaiah chapter 58, verses 12 through 14. And the prophet reads, And they that shall be of thee shall build the old waste places. Thou shalt raise up the foundations of many generations, and thou shalt be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of paths to dwell in. If thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and call the Shabbat a delight, the holy of Yahweh honorable, and shalt honor him, not doing thine own ways, nor finding thine own pleasure, nor speaking thine own words, then shalt thou delight thyself in Yahweh. And I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father, for the mouth of Yahweh hath spoken it. Isaiah chapter 58, verses 12 through 14. Now we turn to the renewed covenant, otherwise known as the New Testament. The renewed covenant in the epistle called Acts of the Apostles. Acts of the Apostles in the epistle called Acts of the Apostles of the renewed covenant. Acts of the Apostles chapter 13, verses 38 to 44. Acts of the Apostles chapter 13, verses 38 to 44. And the epistle reads, Be it known unto you, therefore, men and brethren, that through this man is preached unto you the forgiveness of sins. And by him all that believe are justified from all things from which ye could not be justified by the law of Moses. Beware therefore, lest that come upon you which is spoken of in the prophets. Behold, ye despisers, and wonder and perish. For I work a work in your days, a work which ye shall in no wise believe, though a man declare it unto you. And when the Jews were gone out of the synagogue, the Gentiles besought that these words might be preached to them the next Shabbat. Now, when the congregation was broken up, many of the Jews and religious proselytes followed Paul and Barnabas, who, speaking to them, persuaded them to continue in the grace of Yahweh. And the next Shabbat day came almost the whole city together to hear the word of Yahweh. That was Acts chapter 13, verses 38 to 44. Now we turn still in the renewed covenant to the epistle written to the Hebrews. The epistle written to the Hebrews, Hebrews chapter 8. Hebrews chapter 8, verses 6 through 12. Hebrews chapter 8, verses 6 through 12. And the epistle reads, "But now hath he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is the mediator of a better covenant, which was established upon better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. For finding fault with them, he saith, Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith Yahweh. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith Yahweh. I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them the Most High, and they shall be to me a people. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know Yahweh, for all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more." Praise the Most High, the renewed covenant with the children of Israel. That was Hebrews chapter 8, verses 6 through 12. Now we turn, still in the renewed covenant, to the revelation of the Mashiach Yahushua, the revelation of the Messiah. Revelation chapter 14. Revelation 14 from verse 6, 7, and 12. Revelation chapter 14, verses 6, 7, and 12. "And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, Fear Yahweh, and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth, and the sea, and the fountains of waters. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of Yahweh, and the faith of Yahushua." That was Revelation chapter 14, verses 6, 7, and 12. Now we stay in the revelation of the Mashiach Yahushua, and we turn to Revelation chapter 11, to the seventh trumpet of seven trumpets. Revelation chapter 11, verses 15 to 19. Revelation chapter 11, verses 15 to 19. "And the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven saying, The kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our master and of his Messiah, and he shall reign forever and ever. And the 24 elders which sat before Yahweh on their seats fell upon their faces and worshipped Yahweh, saying, We give thee thanks, O Yahweh al Shaddai, Yahweh al Shaddai, which art and wast and art to come, because thou hast taken to thee thy great power and hast reigned. And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants the prophets, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. And the temple of Yahweh was opened in heaven, and there was seen in his temple the ark of his covenant. And there were lightnings and voices and thunderings and an earthquake and great hail." Revelation chapter 11, verses 15 to 19. Last but not least, we turn back to Yeshaya, the prophet Isaiah, and we go this time to the last chapter, chapter 66 of the prophet Isaiah. In chapter 66, we will read the last three verses, 22, 23, and 24. Yeshaya chapter 66, verses 22, 23, and 24. And the prophecy reads, "For as the new heavens and the new earth which I will make shall remain before me, saith Yahweh, so shall your seed and your name remain. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Shabbat to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith Yahweh. And they shall go forth and look upon the carcasses of the men that have transgressed against me. For their worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched, and they shall be an abhorring unto all flesh. Thus ends the morning's reading of the scriptures. Thank you, Sister Josie, for hosting those scriptures. And we will go forth now into the study. Now, we're talking about Daniel. We're in the prophecy of Daniel. We finished 10 chapters of the prophecy of Daniel, and we were looking at Daniel chapter 11 today. Now, just as a way of review, last night we looked at Daniel as he was getting ready to receive this vision and prophecy. Daniel 10, 11, and 12 are the same event in terms of Daniel receiving this vision and getting and receiving information that he's getting from the angel Gabriel. They're the same event. It starts off with Daniel being shown by the river Hiddekel, and then it shows actually Michael standing on the river Hiddekel, and he given instructions to Gabriel to teach Daniel. And Daniel, just as what happened in Daniel chapter 8, just as what happened in Daniel chapter 9, Gabriel is teaching Daniel. So here, Daniel chapter 10, again to Michael. This is the second time he's seen him. And he's overwhelmed, as we saw John was overwhelmed, as we saw Peter, James, and John were overwhelmed in the renewed covenant. Daniel is overwhelmed at the magnificent sight of the Messiah. And so Gabriel strengthens him in the spirit so that he's able to receive the message that Gabriel's getting ready to present to him. We saw that the devil tried to stop Gabriel from getting to Daniel with the message. He tried very hard with all his might to stop him. For 3 weeks they were fighting. Angels are much stronger than us. They probably obviously have much more strength than the humans. They're higher than the humans. They're without, and so yeah, they were fighting for 3 weeks until Michael came and helped Gabriel get by to get to Daniel. And so Gabriel was telling Daniel, I was held up for 3 weeks by the devil. And when I go back, he's going to fight me again as the king of Grecia. And so he told Daniel what he was getting ready to show him. Nobody else knew or understood the things that he was getting ready to show Daniel except the prince called Michael. The prince called Michael, the same prince we saw in Daniel chapter 12, who was described as the great prince which standeth for the children of Israel, the children of Daniel's people. We also saw that the prince called the Messiah was going to appear in the next 490 years from when we saw that in Daniel chapter 9, which he already did. We saw that that was the prophecy of the Mashiach himself. We also saw that Michael and the Mashiach are the same. The fact that the Jehovah Witnesses are wrong on just about everything else, they seem to have this particular doctrine correct. Michael is Messiah. We saw that from the scriptures as we studied it last night. Today, Gabriel is going to begin giving Daniel details about how the kingdom will change hands, and then he's going to actually show him the rise of the little horn that Daniel had already had 2 other visions concerning. He had 2 other visions concerning this little horn. And in Daniel chapter 11, let's go back to Daniel 8 for a moment. Let's go back to Daniel 7 for a moment. And then we'll deal with a little bit of Daniel 8, and that'll help us here in Daniel chapter 11, because we're going to be using other scriptures to help us with Daniel 11, because there's a lot of minutia in terms of details, in terms of the skirmishes and fights that end up with the little horn being in power ultimately. So let's look at Daniel chapter 7 for a moment. When Daniel saw the 4 beasts coming out of the sea, notice Daniel chapter 7, and let's look at the 3rd and the 4th of these beasts. Daniel chapter 7, verse 6 and 7, and actually 8. Daniel 7, verse 6, 7, and 8. And let's start off with that as we are looking today at Daniel chapter 11. Thank you, Sister Josie. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns. And I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. So we saw, as we looked earlier a few weeks ago at Daniel chapter 7, that as Daniel saw in the statue of Daniel 2, the 4 different metals, he saw gold, silver, brass, and iron. They also here in Daniel 7, he sees 4 rises of 4 different kingdoms, which is the same thing that he saw in Daniel 2. He saw Babylon, Media, Persia, Greece, and Rome. And we just looked at the last 2, which are Greece and Rome. And notice the Greece represented the leopard in verse 6 of Daniel 7, and the leopard had 4 heads. And then came forth this last one that didn't have a specific description in terms of one animal. It just said it was dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had iron teeth. That's what he saw. And then and had 10 horns on his head, and out of these came forth a little horn, right? So this little horn, and it said that this one was different from all the kingdoms that were before it. As we studied this, we saw that the beast, of course, represents kingdoms and governments, and we saw also that the little horn was a religious power. And let's look at this. Daniel chapter 7, we're just kind of reviewing to help us with Daniel 11. Daniel 7, we're going to read from verse, from verse 19 down to verse 25. Daniel chapter 7, from verse 19 to verse 25. Daniel speaks and says, "Then I would know the truth of the 4th beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet, and of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus he said, the 4th beast shall be the 4th kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them. And he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. So let's stop right here. So we see the 4th beast is Rome. We saw that it's Rome. And out of Rome came this little horn, a religious power out of the empire of Rome that would rule the earth, and that would speak great words against the Most High, that would think to change the law and seasons of the Most High, and wear out the saints of the Most High. A religious power that came out of Rome that changes the Most High Yahweh's law, the covenant, that goes against his people. And we know there's only one power that fits that description. A religious power of worldwide influence out of Rome, where one man is leading it, at least the way it appears. And he changes the Most High's laws into his own laws. and changes the times or changes the years. There's only one power that describes it, is the Vatican. It is the Roman Catholic Church. So we see this little horn is the Roman Catholic Church and led by the Pope. Okay. Then we looked in Daniel chapter 8, and in Daniel 8, they did not bother in Daniel 8 on looking at the Babylonian kingdom. No, Daniel 8 started off with the Medo-Persian Empire, and then going to the Greek Empire, and then they didn't even bother giving you the Roman Empire. They went straight to the little horn in Daniel chapter 8. The Daniel 8 focused on the little horn. It focused on the Roman Catholic Church and what it would do and how long it would reign unchecked by the Most High, unchecked by the Most High. And so let's look at this in Daniel chapter 8. We saw, again, we're just reviewing in our review. We're trying to get prepared for Daniel 11, because Daniel 11 is going to talk about the rise of this little horn. It's going to talk about how he subdues these kings. It's going to be talking about all of these things. And I just want to have this backdrop before we get into it. But also, please note that the Roman power, the military and government power, secular power of Rome, come out of what was the 4 divisions of the Greek Empire. Okay, and that's what we're going to look at right here. Let's look at Daniel chapter 8. Daniel chapter 8. Let's see. Daniel 8. Going to read from verse 20. From verse 20 down to verse 23. Daniel 8 from verse 20 down to verse 23. We're just reviewing at this point, so that's why we're not going to go through the whole Daniel 8. We've done it. There's previous videos on that. But let's look at this. The ram which thou sawest, having 2 horns, are the kings of Media and Persia. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Now that being broken, whereas 4 stood a fort, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. Okay, so let's look at this. The ram represented Media Persia. The goat which destroyed the ram was Greece. The first king of Greece was the big horn. Now we know, historically speaking, the first king of the kingdom of Greece as a world empire was Alexander, the man called Alexander the Great. The man called Alexander the Great. He died in his early 30s as a young man. He had 4 generals, and this is stuff that you can look up historically. He had 4 generals: Lysimachus, Seleucus, Ptolemy, and Cassandra. He had 4 generals. These 4 generals killed his entire rest of his family, took over the kingdom. That's why it says the kingdom shall be divided, but not in his power. It wasn't the posterity of Alexander the Great that ended up with the kingdom. It was his 4 generals. And so there was 4 generals, and they divided the kingdom up north, south, east, and west. And that's very important, because that is what we're going to see in Daniel 11. What you're going to end up seeing in Daniel 11 is ultimately the battle was between the king of the south, Ptolemy, and the king of the north, Seleucus. Okay, the other 2 were given over to the power of these 2, and these 2 were reigning. Ptolemy's base of power was in Alexandria, Egypt. Seleucus's base of power excuse me, was in Greece and Turkey, in this area. Okay, so they were battling for world supremacy. You're going to see that in Daniel chapter 11 as we go through Daniel 11. But in Daniel chapter 8, it skips right over the development out of the northern kingdom, which became the Roman Empire, and it goes right to the Pope, the little horn. And it tells us here that in the latter time of their kingdom, when transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. Okay, and let's look again, Daniel chapter 8. Daniel chapter 8, talking about the little horn again. Daniel chapter 8, and again talking about the division of Greece And out of one of those divisions coming forth this little horn, which is the Roman Catholic system. Let's look at this Daniel chapter 8 from verse 8, 9, 10, and 11. Let's just look at all four of those. 8, 9, 10, and 11, talking about the rise of the little horn. And Daniel chapter 8, therefore the he-goat waxed very great. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken. And for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. And one out of one of them, that is one of the four divisions of Greece, came forth the little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south, toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. We're going to come back to that in a moment. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven. And it cast down, and it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. Sanctified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. So we saw this as we studied. It skips right over the secular Roman Empire and Daniel 8, and it zeroes right in on the little horn. So in doing so, it skips a lot of history. So Daniel 11 is going to actually show you a lot of the history of the secular Roman Empire that Daniel 8 skips right over. Daniel 11 is going to give you the minutia of the secular Roman Empire, which really doesn't matter to us at this point. You understand? What matters to us here, where we stand right now, is the little horn, and that's why Daniel 8 goes right past everything and goes right to that little horn. Everybody follow me so far? So when we go to Daniel 11, you're going to see battles between the forces of the king of the south and the king of the north. But we see here in Daniel chapter 8, verse 9, that the little horn waxed exceeding great toward the south. That means they overcame the king of the south. Toward the east, that means they overcame the king of the east. And toward the pleasant land, which is always described as Israel, which would be the west in this world diagram. So this little horn came out the north. So you can tell when we look at Daniel chapter 11, you're going to see a rise of the little horn, and he's going to represent the king of the north. Does that make sense, brothers and sisters? I want to make sure you understand that. So when we go to Daniel 11, you're going to see the rise of what is termed the king of the north. That is the same as this little horn. Okay, it's the same power. It's going to at first be the Roman Empire. But then later on in the chapter, as you see it being transformed in Daniel 7 from a secular power when it had 10 horns to a religious power when the little horn rises up, just so you're going to see in Daniel 11, it goes from a secular power of the king of the north to a religious power of the king of the north. And we're going to see that at the end of Daniel 11, and that's going to show us where we are right now and where we're about to go. The Bible has many places where it shows that, and where it shows where we are and where we're about to go. We've read almost all of them in our recent studies. We've looked at Revelation chapter 13, and we saw that seven-headed beast. It is also the Roman Catholic Church, but it's showing the Roman Catholic Church as the religious power and as a government power. See, in the days in which we live right now in 2016, going in 2017 from the Gregorian pagan calendar, in the days in which we live, right now, the Roman Catholic Church is not only a religion, it is also a government. Okay, that people need to understand that, and they just don't get that. Most people just don't get that. But the Vatican is a government. It's an official country within Italy. So that's why the Pope is not only the head of his church, he is the head of his state. There is no other being on planet Earth that is like this. There's no other person. There's a lot of Muslim countries like Pakistan, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, Jordan. There's a lot of Muslim countries, but none of those Muslim countries has one Muslim that's the head of all Islam. You understand? They all believe in Muhammad as their prophet, and he's dead. So there's no place on earth where you have a worldwide religion. And there's three major worldwide religions. There is the so-called Christian religion, which is dominated by the Roman Catholic Church. There is the Islamic religion, which is dominated by the dead prophet Muhammad. And then, of course, there's the so-called Jews, which are really European Ashkenazis, converts from Eastern Europe and from Khazaria and from Russia, right? So that's the three major religions on planet Earth today. All of them are, of course, working for the enemy. And of course, most of their followers, and I don't want to down the followers of these religions. I want to make this clear. This is not to down the people that are following these religions. We're talking about the hierarchy, the power behind these religions are deceiving the rest of the people. Okay? They're deceiving the people. And that is why the Most High, in his mercy and in his righteousness and fairness, he's going to send forth the 144,000. And they're going to come forth with his spirit. And this is the thing, brothers. This is the thing that separate the prophet Moses said to the Most High, if you don't go with us when we go to the promised land, don't send us, he said. He said, because the only thing that separates us from everybody else on planet Earth is that you're with us. And that's the truth. Okay? The Most High is with his people. And when he pours his spirit on his people, there will be seen a difference between them and everybody else. And it's going to be obvious. They're not going to have any money. They're not going to own any property. They're not going to have any worldly influence, but they're going to have a power on them, just like the apostles had the power on them on the day of Pentecost. They didn't have no money. They were just poor fishermen. But when they started speaking in the power of the Most High Spirit, everybody took note. It will be the same thing. So all the people of planet Earth, the Catholic people, the Islamic people, the so-called fake Jewish people, all of them that are deceived by everything the devil has done over the last 500 to 1,000 years, they're going to have an opportunity to be awakened. Cold water is going to be thrown in their face spiritually. And they're going to see for the first time, many of them, the truth of this whole situation. That all this whole religious system is Babylon. And that is led by the Vatican. Every single Christian church, every single denomination, every single Muslim, every single so-called Jew, they're all being led by Rome. And Rome is being controlled by the devil. And it all is the whore of Babylon. And the Most High is going to put his spirit on his people, and they're going to bring forth this truth, and people are going to have to make a decision. Many of them are going to have to make it under tremendous pressure. Tremendous pressure. So that is why we're going to see here how the Most High goes straight into the little horn in Daniel 8, but he gives us the details, great details, some of which are even hard to be understood because they're just historical details that you have to go back in history to understand when we look at Daniel 11. But there's going to be certain parts. When we get to Daniel 11, you're going to know where in history we are because it gives you certain waymarks. It gives you certain stakes that when you see it, you know where in history we are. Okay, so we'll show you that as we go through it. But for now, let's look back at Daniel 8 just again, and let's look again at this little horn so we can see, because in Daniel chapter 11, they're going to use this word quite a bit. I want to type it out. I'm going to type it out. They're going to use that word quite a bit in Daniel chapter 11. The word is the word flatteries. What is flatteries? Well, in the Hebrew, it means smooth. That's what it means, smooth. And you remember, brothers and sisters, have you ever read in Isaiah where the scripture said that after a while, the Hebrew Israelites were telling the prophets, preach unto us smooth things. Remember that? We don't want to hear the word of the Most High anymore. Preach unto us smooth things, prophecy, deceits. You're going to see the words flattery. That's right. It's deception. It's smooth talking. It's something that's combining a lie with the truth, and it's smooth so that it gets people to compromise the truth. You understand? That's right. Teaching smooth things, and you're going to see that word flatteries in Daniel 11 quite a bit. But here in Daniel 8, you see a very similar word. Let's take a look at it. Daniel chapter 8. Daniel chapter 8 from verse 23, talking about the little horn, from verse 23 down to verse 25. Daniel chapter 8 from verse 23 down to verse 25. Again, we're just getting ourselves prepared as we get ready to go through Daniel 11, okay? Because it's a long journey, and I want you to be prepared for the journey, okay? And in the latter time of their kingdom, when transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. Praise the Most High. So you can see, understanding dark sentences. The translation is riddles, right? So he speaks and understands riddles and dark sentences. His power is mighty, but not by his own power. Well, the Bible shows us the dragon gives him his power, his seat, and his great authority. Then we read that in Revelation chapter 13. The dragon gives him his power, his seat, and great authority. So the power that he has is not his own power. It's the dragon's power. Okay, and then it says, he shall practice and prosper and destroy the mighty and the holy people. Well, that's what he's done, isn't it? He has the as we're going to see from Daniel 11, they have infiltrated every single religion. They have infiltrated all the Christian churches, so that all of these so-called Christian churches are just whores in the madam's house. You see, in big whorehouses, there's a madam. The madam is the queen whore, right? So she's the queen whore. So when the customer walks in, the madam says, what can we do for you? And he say, well, I want a redhead today. Okay, we got redhead right down here in room so. Go to redhead over there, and you pay the man on your way out. And then if someone, I want a blonde. Okay, we got blonde on this side. Go down here. Oh, I want a brown skinned woman, a dark woman. Okay, we got them too. You go down here, and whatever flavor you want, you tell the madam. And if she got it, she'll tell you. That's Rome. Rome is the madam. Okay, when you walk into the Christian church, you're walking into the whorehouse. Rome is the matter. And what she want to know, what you looking for? Well, I want to keep the Sabbath. Okay, you want to go to SDA church? You want to go to Seventh-day Baptist church? You can go to Seventh-day Pentecostal, Church of God, Seventh Day. Which one you want? You can go to there. Okay, that we got that heart. We got that whore for you. Somebody say, well, no. I believe in Joseph Smith. I believe we the prophet. Okay, look, we got the Mormon whore. You want to go there? We got the Mormon whore down the hall. You can go down there if you want. Okay, you got that? Got your special underwear on. Got your secret, your magic underwear. You got that? You got your Book of Mormon. You're all set. No, I want that. We need the power of the Spirit. Oh, you looking for the Pentecostal whore? We got that one for you too. Or you got to just walk down the hall. We got Pentecost. No. His name is Jehovah. We want to worship Jehovah. Oh, you want Jehovah? That's the Jehovah Witness whore. You can go right down the hall right there. You can follow it. Pay the man on your way out. And all of them are just whores in the madam's house. Now the madam has a pimp. The pimp is the devil. See, devil doesn't have no wife. He got hoes. See, the Messiah, Mashiach Yahushua, he got a wife. He marries his woman. His woman is pure, right? But the devil got a dirty, filthy hoe. He got a dirty, filthy hoe. And he tell that madam, you make sure you get me my money. He don't say it. You know how they talk, right? You make sure you get me my money, huh? You make sure you get my money. You hear? The church is taking direction from his pimp, the devil. And they say, what church you want? Go to any one of them. You know why? Because they control all of them. Say, no, I don't like any of them Christian churches. I don't like them. Oh, you don't? Well, we got Islam for you. You want to deal with Islam? You want Muhammad? You want to deal with him? Oh, wait. You want to go to Judaism? You want to go to Judaism? Hey, we got Howard, we got Weinstein and Cohen right down the hall. Go down there and get them. Weinstein and Cohen waiting for you right there. Okay, we got any hole you want. What you need. So that's what they got. That's what they're doing. That's why they call them the three major religions: Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. None of them are biblical. None of them. They're all derivatives of the Bible. They're all derivatives. None of them are biblical. Okay. The Most High has one people. We have read it. We have seen it. He says, there's only one people I have known. Only you have I known of all the families of the earth. He said, I have chosen you. That's Israel. That's the only nation he knows. That's the only people he knows. That's the only nation and people he's going to save. It's Israel, his true Israelite church that keeps his commandments. That's his true Israelite people. So here we can see in Daniel chapter 8, the Bible says, he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. Craft is deceit. It's the same, it's a different way of saying flatteries. You find me? So this little horn caused craft to prosper. He caused deceit to prosper. Preaching smooth things. So you go to any of these places, they tell you smooth things. Stuff you want to hear. See, that's the difference between the truth and a lie. A lie is something you want to hear because it appeals to your flesh. It appeals to your sinful nature. The truth goes against your sinful nature and you end up wrestling with that. Even though it is the thing about the truth, you know in your heart it's right, but man, it goes against what you want to do. That's the truth, right? You know in your heart it's right, denying that is true, but man, it goes against what you want to do. Man, it goes against your flesh. It goes against your natural spirit. Right? And so the Most High, what he does is he works on our hearts. He changes our hearts. He gives us a new heart, he said. And he puts his spirit on us so that now when we hear lies, it's distasteful. It's like you used to smoke cigarettes and now you try to put one to your mouth and it's nasty. You can't even believe you ever smoked. You don't want it anymore. Whereas before, you'd spend your last to get a carton. Now you can't. You just are so ashamed at spending your last to get that stuff, right? And now you like, man, that's nasty. That's what he does. He changes your taste buds. He changes your mind. He gives you a new mind because it's his spirit of righteousness that he's pouring into you. And he does it at your permission. He does it at a pace you can handle because he knows what you can handle. Most High told the disciples, I have many things to say to you. You can't handle it. He did the Jack Nicholson. You can't handle the truth, but I'm gonna give it to you as you can receive it. Give it to you as you can receive it. So that's the same way he does with all of us. We can, if he was to pour out everything that I know right now, if he'd have gave it to me 10 years ago, I would have rejected it. I would have rejected it. I couldn't handle it. You understand? So he had to give it to me piece by piece by piece, where I was able to receive it, spoon feed it to me as a baby, as I could eat it. And then when I'm grown and I'm ready for the full meal, the solid food, he could give it to me. You understand? That's why I tell people, somebody just coming to the truth, you can't just give them everything at one time. They can't handle it. It's not fair. Because even you, if you're walking in the right spirit, you didn't receive everything in one day, right? You didn't receive it all at one time. You wouldn't have been able to handle it. So he gives it to you bit by bit. He gives you, the Bible says in Proverbs 4:18, that the path of the just is as the shining light that shineth more and more unto the perfect day. The sun rises. When it rises slowly, doesn't it? It starts, you see a little light, it gets a little lighter, it gets a little lighter until you get to the middle of the day when it's shining real bright. It doesn't come just out like that, right? It comes out slowly. Learn. That's right. See what I'm saying? So that's it. So you can't just pour it all on people, everything you know. You got to ask for wisdom, brothers and sisters, when you're sharing this truth with people. Ask for wisdom from the Most High, because they don't know what you know. Especially if you can see they're in ignorance. And you got to understand, you got to spoon feed them. You can't give them the whole thing right now. You say, oh, I know about the Sabbath and I know how to eat. I know about blood. You can't eat. You can't. You do all that, they're going to think you crazy, right? You can't do it like that. You got to give them little by little, where they at. And the Most High guides you in wisdom, just like he guides a mother as the mother is trying to raise the little baby, right? Mother got to get a little baby as the baby can handle. You get some aggressive dude in there and say, no, you can't do that. No, back up. You understand? You got to back up. So, brothers and sisters, that's how you got to do this. So, there's some deep truths we're going into today. I'm just telling you. I'm going to try to tell you up front. There's some power. That's why we went through all of Daniel step by step, because here we're getting ready to go through some powerful stuff today. It's heavy, and I'm trying to give you all some good backgrounds as we get into it. You're not overwhelmed, see? Because there's a lot of videos that we have out, just people just not ready for it. And I understand that, but see, I'm just instructed by the Most High to teach. Who is ready to receive it, he'll make sure they receive it. And who is not, he'll make sure they just won't. You understand? And that's the thing. The difference between the true Israelites, and everybody else on the earth. The Israelites is not worried about how many people they have. See, all these churches are worried about the numbers that are among them. My church got 3 million. My church got 10 million. They're all worried about, that's heathen practice That's a heathen practice. The Most High is not worried about how many he got. If he got one, he got enough. You understand? If he got one, he's in the majority still. You understand? So we're not worried about how many come to our room, how many videos they watch, how many people are in the faith. We're not worried about that. All we worry about is keeping the commandments of the Most High and causing his righteousness to be reflected from our countenance. That's it. Whoever comes, comes. Whoever don't. That's just the way it is, brothers and sisters. Yeah, we love people, and we want to see as many people saved as possible. Yes, we do. But we understand you can't just force it on people. You can't do that. So what you got to do, though, is you got to keep the commandments of the Most High. Keep his commandments, statutes, and judgments. You want his righteous spirit to be seen off your countenance. You want people not to see you. You want them to see him, so that the spirit of the Most High goes with you, and people will notice that. That's right. Of course, we were talking about that last night, Sister Josie. You got to pray. You got to intercede, so that the spirit will intercede and talk to people where you can't. You can't talk to them, especially if they're your family. You know very well. I think everybody understands in here, if I can say this, right? Your family are the hardest people to win to the Most High's truth. Isn't that true? Your family is the hardest people to win to the truth. And that goes with the principle that the Messiah taught us when he said a prophet is not without honor except in his own house, except in his own family, except in his own country. Remember, Messiah went back to Nazareth, and the Bible said he couldn't do many mighty works there because they kept looking at him and thinking, hey, this is the carpenter's son. That's that little boy used to run around here. That's the carpenter's son. How he talking about he the Messiah? So he couldn't do a lot for them. Okay? Couldn't do a lot for them. But that's what I'm saying. So where we can't say anything, we can always live. Where we can't say anything, we can always pray. Isn't that true? We can always pray. We can always live. And that's the Bible never said that you are called to preach before Yankee stadiums filled with people, that you got to give out 10 million tracts. Bible never said that. That's people saying that. You understand? Not everybody gonna be like that, but what everybody in Israel is called to do. He said, hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear the Most High and keep his commandments. This is the whole duty of man. This is our whole duty, brothers and sisters, keeping his commandments, statutes, and judgments. We can only do this by his spirit. Isn't that true? We try to do it without his spirit. It's a righteousness by works trip. It's going nowhere. But when you are walking in the spirit of the Most High Yah, and you are surrendered, and the blood of the Mashiach Yahushua has cleansed you from all your sin and has washed you clean, now you can keep his commandments. Now it becomes part of your nature to obey him. Now you love the truth. You understand? You love it. You can't stand to hear nothing that's not truth. Right? Because you don't want to hear that no more. Right? So here, the little horn, he brings deceit. He brings the smooth things. And he wins people by deceit, by craftiness, and by smooth things. And he's ruthless at the same time. So he'll smooth talk you, then he'll have you killed. He's ruthless. He'll smooth talk you, then he'll have you killed. Let me give you an example of that. Y'all know how the Indians lost this land, right? You know how the Indians lost this land, right? I was giving you an example, right? How did the Indians lose this land that is now North America when it was covered with nations of Indians at one time? Covered with nations of Indians. From Canada all the way down into Mexico was covered with nations of Indians. How did they lose it? Well, people came from another country and they said, oh, we're going to be your friend. Here, let me give you some trinkets and $24 for this land. And you say, what are we going to do with this money? Okay, you can, whatever. And after they got that, they said, oh, wait a minute, we want some more land. We want some more land. And now you backing the Indians up. So they trying to kill you back, but they can't deal with your guns. So you shooting them and hacking them and destroying them. So you started off smiling at them. You come off the boat smiling at them, shaking their hands and trying to be friends, right? Like Pocahontas and Disney World and all that foolishness. But then you turn around and you start raping, pillaging, destroying. That's exactly how Rome works, brothers and sisters. That's how it works. He starts off with craft, but if you don't follow the program, he's going to end up killing you. That's how it goes. The devil is a murderer and a liar, and he gives power, seat, and authority to Rome. You need to understand that, okay? All right. So now we got that from Daniel chapter 8, Daniel chapter 7. You understand the little horn? Let me just tell you one more time in terms of the order. So you see It was first Babylon. Remember, it was Babylon. Then there was the Medes and the Persians. The Medes and the Persians gave way to the Greeks. The Greeks gave way to Rome. Okay, y'all gonna make sure you got that. We studied that out. Daniel 2, Daniel 7, Daniel 8. Okay, we saw that. So let's just go over that again. It's important. The Babylonian, then Medes and the Persians, then the Greek Empire, then the Roman Empire, then the Little Horn. Now, out of the Greek Empire, when Alexander the Great was the head of the Greek Empire, it was divided among his 4 generals after his death. You had Ptolemy in the south, in what used to be called Kemet, but is now called Alexandria, Egypt, after Alexander. You had the north, Athens, there with Seleucus. You had Ptolemy in the south, and you had Lysimachus and Cassandra in the east and the west. In the end, Seleucus and Ptolemy were fighting over the kingdom. Okay, Seleucus and Ptolemy fighting over the kingdom. So, as we're looking at Daniel 11, you're going to end up looking at Seleucus and Ptolemy. It's going to start off showing you the Persian Empire, and then after the Persian Empire, it's going to show you the Greek Empire. Then you're going to see the divided empire among the 4 generals. Then you will see the north and the south dominate. Okay, then you will eventually see the north dominate, and out of the north come forth the Little Horn. Okay, that's how this is going to go. Now, in the end of time, where we live, the Bible will talk about the king of the south again. Only this time, where we live right now, the king of the south is not Ptolemy. It's not Alexandria, Egypt. And the end of time, let me ask you a question. Of the 3 major religions, which one is the most militant, outwardly militant? Which one is the most aggressive and militant of the 3 major religions on planet Earth? What would you say? Which one is the most outwardly aggressive and the most outwardly aggressive? Now, Rome and Catholicism, we know them to be aggressive, but they're aggressive secretly, right? Like, everybody sees that man with the white suit on, and nobody says that he's aggressive, but we know he's aggressive from the scriptures, right? But I'm saying outwardly aggressive. The ones that are outwardly aggressive, that come on you, that will just come in there and kill you and make you become part of their religion. Yeah, that would be Islam, right? I think everybody agrees. So here, as the time in which we live, even though Rome and Islam work together in some levels, there are factions of Islam from Rome, okay? They're not trying to hear that, okay? And so they are going to push back. And what I mean by that is, we've been picking on them. Like, the United States has been, for the last 20 years, definitely, probably 25 years, they've been going into the Middle East and starting fights in different countries, right? They started with Iran, they started with Afghanistan, right? And let me ask you something. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you all a question. Let's say you lived, I'm going to say you live in, I don't know, let's say I'm going to pick a country. Let's say you live in the Philippines, okay? You live in the Philippines, all right? Imagine this. Well, forget the Philippines. Let's say you live where you live right now, okay? Let's say you live where you live right now, right? So wherever you are, Canada, United States, West Coast, East Coast, wherever you are. Let's say you live there and you have a spouse, okay? You with me? And you have children. Maybe your children or maybe your grandchildren, they babies, like 2, 3 years old, right? You got some grandchildren, babies, you live with your spouse, you're in a place in some part of the United States. Okay, as you're sleeping one night, some drones are flown over your house and they drop bombs and they kill many people in your town and in your city, die as a result of the bombs from the drones. You didn't know what happened. You didn't do anybody. You were just getting up for work or doing what you do every day. And you look up and your house is destroyed. And your little baby is killed because of the drones, right? You wake up and your little baby is killed because of the drone and your house is destroyed. Everything you work for is gone in a few minutes. and people are yelling, and people are missing arms and limbs, and they're dead, and many people are losing relatives. When you find out what country did that, how you gonna feel? Hmm? When you find out what country did that, find out who it was, how you gonna feel about that? What is your thought process? You're gonna be angry, aren't you? You're gonna be angry, right? And let's say you were a man and you had a little son, and your son, you just was sleeping, you just put your baby to bed that night, and you went to bed, you're gonna get up and go to work the next day, and some drones came and just destroyed your whole town, and your little baby son was crushed to death when your house was blow up. How you gonna feel? Right? How you gonna feel? How you gonna feel? You gonna wake up and you know your first thought is, I want to get them back. I want them to pay for what they did. Am I right or wrong? Am I telling you what people are gonna really feel? All right? Am I saying the truth? You're going to want them to pay for what they done. They killed my little child. They killed my cousin. They killed my brother. They killed my father. They killed my mother with these drones, with these bombs. That's how terrorists are created. That's how terrorists are created. I just explained to you. That's how they start. Okay? That's how they're able to recruit people to do it. So you get a country that's powerful picking on a country that's not. And innocent people are being destroyed and killed, with babies and children and families. Then it's easy for somebody to come to your town. Now your town is in shambles. Your house is in ruins, right? And so you got to go to your cousin that lives in another part of the country and hope they don't bomb him. And on your way, there's some people. And the people say, you know what? We need to get these people back for what they done. How you gonna say, yeah, I'm down. What we gotta do? This is what you gotta do. You may have to die. I don't care if I die. They done killed my wife and family. I don't care. You want me to strap bombs on me and blow them up? I'll do it. You understand, brothers and sisters? That's how a terrorist is created. See, be careful when you see how the news media talks about terrorists, brothers and sisters. They don't just start hating you because you're American. They don't hate you because you're American. They hate you because you came to their land and you blew up their place. That's why they hate you. They hate you because on your news media, you start talking about them having weapons of mass destruction, and they know they ain't got no weapons. They know they don't have none. You understand? Now, you and me, yes, Brother Kurt just said the truth. We understand that vengeance, especially Israelites understand that vengeance belongs to the Most High, but not everybody's an Israelite. You understand what I'm saying? Not everybody is an Israelite. Huh? And so there, if you wasn't an Israelite and you didn't have that knowledge, your thing is, look, man, they done killed my family. What I need to do to get them back? What I need to do? You tell me, I'll do it. You understand? That's how they feel. So now you have a faction of people. You have a large group of people in different parts of the earth, in Africa, West Africa, South Africa, East Africa. You got people in the Middle East, in different countries of the Middle East. You got people in Eastern Europe. They're Islamic, and they can't stand the American culture because they've seen everything that's being hidden from us. See, it's being hidden from us because we listening to the news. And if you listen to the news, you're misinformed, right? Because the news is going to lie to you. So they putting forth a picture that's different than what's actually happening. And so these people see what's really happening. They're not followers of the Most High Yah. They don't believe in the covenant. They're not understanding that. That's right. They don't realize who's really behind it. And so there's a fight going on. So when they do realize it's wrong, good morning, Sister Kimmy. When they do realize it's wrong, they're going to feel like attacking Rome. And that's going to be your king of the south at the end. That's going to be your king of the south. We're going to talk about that as we get through Daniel 11. I want to just give you that backdrop. So when we get to the king of the south at the end of Daniel 11, you'll understand what we're talking about and how Rome is going to overcome them and how you're seeing that right now. Okay, so we're going to deal with that as we get to the end of this chapter. But for now, let's begin now. Daniel chapter 11. Now, as I said, there's going to be a lot of scriptures that have to do with the changing of power, the skirmish between what was Alexandria, Egypt, and Ptolemy, and what was Seleucus and the king of the north, and how it develops into the Roman Empire. There's going to be a lot of that. So let's look at Daniel 11. So verse 1 of Daniel 11 is actually a continuation of Daniel 10. It's Gabriel talking to Daniel. In fact, the whole thing of Daniel 11 and Daniel 12 is Gabriel speaking to Daniel. I also want to make sure you understand this. This is the angel Gabriel giving Daniel a message. And this is the message, okay? So let's look at this. Daniel chapter 11, we're going to read from verse 1 down to verse 4. Daniel chapter 11 from verse 1 to verse 4. And Gabriel speaking to Daniel, and he says, also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than they all. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. And a mighty king shall stand up and shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided toward the 4 winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others beside those. Let's stop right here. Now we know the history. So now we saw the Medes and the Persians. And we saw from Daniel 8 that, remember, that ram had 2 horns, and it said that the higher of the horns came up last. That's the Persian. So here he's starting off with the Persians. He told Daniel, I was trying to strengthen Darius the Mede when he took over. But after Darius the Mede, when the Persians came, there are 3 kings in Persia, and then there's going to be a 4th king in Persia. He's telling Daniel the succession in Persia. And he said, this 4th king is going to be very rich, and he's going to try to attack Greece. That's verse 2. And a mighty king shall stand up with great dominion and do according to his will. That's Alexander the Great. How do we know that? Because it says in verse 4, when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided toward the 4 winds of heaven. We saw that also in Daniel 8 from the rough goat. Remember, the rough goat came flying into the ram with that big horn between his eyes. And when he struck the ram, he destroyed the ram and stamped upon him and became very great. And then the rough horn, the big horn was broken. And it said 4 came up in his place. Here you are right here. This is the same thing. So Alexander the Great is that mighty king of verse 3 that stood up from Greece and fought against Persia and took over. But then his kingdom was divided into 4. And notice it said it was divided not to his posterity. That means not to his children, nor according to his dominion which he ruled. So it's not according to his plans that the Greek kingdom was divided. It was by the generals' plans, right? They killed him and took over, okay? And then they were trying to fight each other for power. Then it said, for his kingdom shall be plucked up even for others beside those. So aside from the original 4 generals, there would be skirmishes between their families for power, okay, over the next, several years. There will be skirmishes between their families vying for power. And that's the way power operates in the world. You all know that. I ain't got to, most of you are old enough to understand. Power fights each other in a ruthless manner on planet Earth, and people that are in power want more power, and people that have power want to keep power. And so there's always going to be wars behind the scenes with people on the earth vying for power. That's what presidential elections are about. That's what a lot of the wars are about. That's what people vying for power. And the thing is that's so sad about it is you have very rich people. They can't spend all that they have in terms of assets, but they want more, okay? They're always looking for more, okay? They're never satisfied, never satisfied. They're always looking for more, all right? So that's what you have on planet Earth. That's what you had then. That's what you have now. Because as long as the devil lives, he will always be vying for the Most High's power, always, until he's dead. And he's going to be dead. Eventually, he's going to be dead. But while he still lives, he's always going to be using his deceivable power and his lying wonders to gain more power on planet Earth, especially if he has a people, even a small group of people, that are resisting his power and authority. He's not going to like that. If he doesn't like that, he hates it. So if you're resisting the authority and power of the devil, it's because you're serving the Most High. Okay. And if you're serving the Most High, he hates you. No question about it. He hates you. But you're not concerned with his hatred because you're not ignorant as to his devices. You know how he operates, right? You know how he operates from your own experience. How's he operated with you? You know how he operates, and you know who you have on your side that overcomes him. You know and so it doesn't really matter. I mean, as I'm speaking to you right now, I can guarantee you there are people listening to me right now. I mean, there are people listening to me that don't like me. There are people listening to me and watching me that don't like me. I can tell you that right now. I know that, but I don't worry about that. I don't worry about that. The goal I have, the only goal I have, is to bring forth the truth as the Spirit of Father gives it to me. That's it. Death and life, that doesn't mean much because we're dealing with eternity. We're not dealing with what whatever 70, 80, 90 years you can live on this planet. We're not dealing with that. We're dealing with eternity. This battle is for all the marbles. It's for destiny, eternal destiny. And so, brothers and sisters, in this war, we can't worry about that. Yeah, they're watching us. Yeah, they're listening to us. They're taking note of what we say and what we do, and they're measuring how much of a threat we might be. But that's okay. You cannot worry about those things. There's a lot of people that are worried about that. Oh, they're watching you through the computer. Or they're listening to you. They bugging your house. They bugging your phone. Hey, I love to have privacy, right? I think everybody would love to have privacy, right? But we're in a war right now. So we can't worry about that. We're in a war right now. So the object is to get the message out. Object is to get the message out. Can't worry about them watching. Where I think about it, I say, I hope y'all got a good shot. Because I'm gonna do what I do in my house. And you can watch if you want to. You can get a good look if you want to, but I'm gonna do what I do in my house. You understand? You understand? So, hey, whatever. Get a good shot. Enjoy it because I'm gonna do what I do in my house. See, and I'm a priest to teach the truth regardless. You understand? So praise the Most High. But they watching. So here, Daniel chapter 11, we see the rise of the four generals of the Greek Empire, the four divisions of the Greek Empire. Okay, now let's continue. Daniel chapter 11 from verse 5, down to verse 8. Daniel chapter 11 from verse 5 down to verse 8. You're going to see here that it's going to be between the king of the north and the king of the south. King of east and west are going to fade away. And now you're going to be having a division between Seleucus and Ptolemy. They're going to be fighting for power. And at first, the southern part is going to seem to have the edge. Let's take a look. And the king of the south shall be strong, and one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him, and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion. And in the end of the years, they shall join themselves together. For the king's daughter of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement, but she shall not retain the power of the arm, neither shall he stand nor his arm, but she shall be given up, and they that brought her, and he that begot her, and he that strengthened her in these times. But out of a branch of her roots shall one stand up in his estate, an army, and shall enter into the fortress of the king of the north, and shall deal against him, and shall prevail, and shall also carry captives into Egypt their gods, with their princes, and with their precious vessel of silver and of gold. And he shall continue more years than the king of the north. So at first, the king of the south, and notice the mention of Egypt, because the kingdom of Ptolemy was based in Egypt. It was Alexandria. And this is why, all your Greek philosophers stole their ideas from Egypt. That's what they did. And that's why the Pope of Rome, if you notice that when he walks sometimes with this staff in his hand and it looks like a cross. It's got a bow on the top. Have y'all ever noticed that? Sometimes he walks with this staff in his hand and it's like a cross, but it's got a bow at the top. That's an Egyptian cross. Get that from Egypt. See, they stole a lot of these Greek philosophers. Your Greek philosophers, they stole all that stuff when they went down into Egypt. That's why they changed the name from Kemet to Alexandria. They not only stole gold and silver, but they stole ideas. They stole mathematics. Mathematics was developed by Egyptians and by people in the Middle East in Babylon. They developed algebra. They developed geometry. They developed all of the calculus. They developed the mathematics. So they went down there and they saw that and they took it and they built on it. Okay, they built on it. So that's how you got all your Greek philosophers. They started seeing these things and they start taking it and molding it after their own way. Okay, so that's why they took all their stuff. They went down to Egypt. And notice, remember that Daniel 2 prophesied how they were going to try to mingle themselves with the seed of men to try to create one power, but it won't stay. And that's what happened here. So you have the king of the south trying to use the marriage situation to make agreements with the king of the north, but it didn't last. It never will last. It's not going to last. Okay, it's not going to last. So they tried to do it, and then there was war, and the king of the south at first stronger. So this is all going on while the children of Israel had rebuilt the city of Jerusalem and had rebuilt the temple, and they were in the middle of it. And at this point, they're just pawns. You see, the children of Israel are just pawns. Some of them are already fled down into Africa and living there. Some of them have already fled into parts of Europe and were living there. But they were pawns in this fight between Ptolemy and Seleucus over the course of time in the Greek Empire. As we stopped at Daniel chapter 11, verse 8. Let's continue from verse 9. Let's go from verse 9 down to verse 13. From verse 9 down to verse 13. So the king of the south shall come into his kingdom and shall return into his own land. But his sons shall be stirred up and shall assemble a multitude of great forces. And one shall certainly come and overflow and pass through. Then shall he return and be stirred up even to this fortress. And the king of the south shall be moved with choler and shall come forth and fight with him, even with the king of the north. And he shall set forth a great multitude, but that multitude shall be given into his hand. And when he hath taken away the multitude, his heart shall be lifted up, and he shall cast down many 10,000s, but he shall not be strengthened by it. For the king of the north shall return and shall set forth a multitude greater than the former, and shall certainly come after certain years with a great army and with much riches. Okay, now at verse 13, you're seeing the development of the Roman Empire. Okay, this is what you're seeing at verse 13. When the king of the north comes, this is a greater multitude than the former, and with great army and with much riches. This is now the marching of your Caesars. This is your Roman Empire coming into fruition now. It's starting right here. Okay, I just want to make you, it's one of those landmarks I was telling you about. It's one of those waymarks in Daniel 11. So when you see the king of the north right here, verse 13, you're seeing now now you're not dealing with Seleucus anymore. You're not and by the way, I just want to say Rome, the Roman Empire had nothing to do with Seleucus. It just came out of the same area. It came out of the north. The Roman Empire came out of the north. Seleucus also came out of the north, but when Seleucus faded away, because the king of the south was stronger than him, when Rome came, that was a different story. Rome, if you look at history, Rome brought forth methods of warfare that had not been seen before. Whereas people used to use big long swords, Rome used short swords, and they had these shields, and they got into close contact with the enemy. They didn't do it from distances like people had done in the past. They came up with short swords and with big shields, and they were stabbing people and killing people that way, and they were ruthless, man. And that's why the Bible says that they were the most ruthless. The Iron One was the most ruthless. And so verse 13, you're starting to see that now. So let's continue from verse 14 down to verse 18. And in those times there shall many stand up against the king of the south. Also the robbers of thy people shall exalt themselves to establish division, but they shall fall. And so the king of the north shall come and cast up a mount and take the most fenced cities. And the arms of the south shall not withstand, neither his chosen people, neither shall there be any strength to withstand. But he that cometh against him shall do according to his will, and none shall stand before him. And he shall stand in the glorious land, and by his hand shall be consumed. He shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom, and upright ones with him. Thus shall he do, and he shall give him the daughter of women, corrupting her. But she shall not stand on his side, neither before him. After this shall he turn his face unto the isles, and shall take many. But a prince for his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease. Without his own reproach he shall cause it to turn upon him. He shall turn his face toward the fort of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall and not be found. So they're talking specifically about specific Roman emperors. But at this point, you're dealing with the Roman Empire that we know as the Roman Empire. So he says he overwhelmed the south, he took over, and notice the mention of the glorious land. Whenever you see the glorious land, you should understand that that's the nation of Israel. Okay, so whenever they're talking about the glorious land, it's the nation of Israel. Okay, when he talks about the glorious land or the glory of all lands, it's the nation of Israel. Okay, so now he says in there that he shall also take over the glorious land. He shall stand in the glorious land. And we know that Rome, by the time Messiah was born, right? When Messiah was born, he was born into a situation where Rome controlled Israel. Isn't that true? So they had Roman soldiers guarding. They had Roman Pilate was there, and they controlled the nation of Israel. They had the nation of Israel collecting taxes for Rome. The tax collectors were collecting taxes not for Israel. They were collecting taxes for Rome. Okay, so that's why they came and they took over the glorious land. Now, verse 20 is another landmark, and I want to show you when we talk about taxes. Okay, let's look at verse 20. Chapter 11 and verse 20. Then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes. There you have it. In the glory of the kingdom. But within a few days he shall be destroyed, neither in anger nor in battle. So in the Roman Empire, there stood up a raiser of taxes. And let's look at that. That's in Luke chapter 2. Luke chapter 2. Luke chapter 2, to tell you exactly who we're talking about. Luke chapter 2 and verse 1. Luke chapter 2, actually verse 1 and 2 and 3. Luke chapter 2, verse 1, 2, and 3. Notice what the scripture says. Thank you, Sister Josie. Luke chapter 2, verses 1, 2, and 3. Notice what it said. And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And this taxing was first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria. And all went to be taxed, everyone into his own city. So now it gives you the indication here that the Romans controlled the whole world, because only a world emperor can say all the world is going to be taxed. You understand what I'm saying? So only a person that had the power to implement that program could order it. You understand? So obviously the Romans controlled the world, as the Bible said they would, and Caesar Augustus is that raiser of taxes that you see in Daniel chapter 11 and verse 20. And he caused all the people in Israel to go back to the house of their fathers to register for the tax. Okay, they had to register. That was the first worldwide IRS. That was your first worldwide IRS. And so before that, okay, that's why, if you remember, one day Messiah was going into a certain place and Peter was with him. And the Pharisees asked Peter, does your master pay taxes? And Peter said, yeah, we pay taxes. And then Messiah grabbed Peter and said, Peter, let me ask you a question. Who do people collect taxes from? Of their own children or of strangers? And Peter said, of strangers. He said, then are the children free? He said, nevertheless, lest we should offend them, go and fish, and the first fish you catch, look in his mouth, and there'll be a piece of silver in there. Go give that to them for you and me. Okay, so he was telling them that the only people that's supposed to be taxed are people that are taken over by foreigners, right? So he was letting Peter know, we have been taken over by foreigners. We're not free. That's why we got to pay taxes. Okay, and it's the same now. It's a new thing in the United States for people that are citizens to be taxed. Usually people that are from other countries get taxed for the citizens, but now not only are they taxing their own citizens, but everybody else as well. So you have that. So that's Daniel 11:20, and let's look at that again. Then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom, but within a few days he shall be destroyed, neither in anger nor in battle. Okay, that's your Caesar Augustus. That's him right there. Everybody see that? Testing 1, 2, 3. There's Caesar Augustus right there. Daniel 11 verse 20. Okay, now I think what I should do. We've covered a lot so far. We've covered a lot. I think I should stop because I don't want to give y'all too much. And we have a lot to cover in Daniel 11. We're only halfway through Daniel 11, and we got a lot to cover. And I don't want to give you all too much in one video. Does that make sense, brothers? I don't want to give you all too much in one video. So what I want to do is I want to stop here. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and get into another piece of the word. But on Friday night, by the grace of the Most High, next Friday, we'll continue Daniel chapter 11, because there is a lot in Daniel 11, and I don't want to overwhelm y'all with everything. I gave you a strong background so that you have a background, you understand now the succession of kingdoms and how they operate in Daniel 11, and how we become the king of the north is the same as the little horn. I want to make sure I wanted to make sure you got that as we going through here. But Gabriel is now giving Daniel all of these details of the Roman Empire, and he's going to give Daniel more details all the way till you get to the papacy. So you're going to see the papacy. Yes, this is going to be in the YouTube channel, and this particular message is entitled Daniel 11, the Rise of the Little Horn. So it's going to be out there, hopefully today at some point. So we're going to stop here at verse 20. It's a good place to stop, and then we'll continue, and we'll look at the rest by the grace of the Most High, Daniel 11 next Friday. The break today is going to be, let's see, it's 12:50. Sister Elaine lives in Texas. She's an hour behind me, so it's 11:50. So Sister Elaine, could you play music until quarter after? Well, that would be until 12:15 your time, which is 1:15 my time. So 25-minute is the break. 25-minute break. Is that good, Sister CJ? 25-minute break. Give you a chance to charge up. Okay, I'm going to stop the video now. Let's have a word of prayer.